What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 89 of the Blue River Bow Hunting Podcast. Dylan, what's up? You had an episode off, first one off in a while. What's going on, man?
Not much. Just enjoyed a little bit of family time. I've been pretty hard at it, so I had to give them a day or two. And of course, Sunday we were right back at it.
Right. Yeah, it's creeping up on us, man. Next week I'll be there for the velvet hunt. I am super freaking jacked up. I'm ready to hunt right now.
We've put the work in, and we're seeing them. So it's just making the connection.
Right on. Well, tonight's guest, Michael Stonebraker from Bowtique, man. What's going on, dude?
Not too much. How are you guys?
Good, man. Appreciate you coming on and spending the evening with us. Talk some arrow builds. Not something I think I've ever really covered on this show, which a lot of people do it so many different ways, and it's going to be pretty cool hearing your side of stuff because that's what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
For somebody that doesn't know you, man, introduce yourself a little bit.
So yeah, I'm Mike Stonebraker. I'm the owner of the Bowtique. I've been building arrows for close to a decade now. Over the last couple of years, it's definitely gotten a lot bigger than it was when I first started. Enough so for me to justify getting an LLC and then starting our business. So,
what made you jump into that, or how did you start? Building arrows.
Yeah, so like a lot of it, and this is a lot of people I've talked to over time has had the same story. Like, there's bow shops in the area, but none of them are like, I mean, they just sell stuff. Like they're not adequately trained or care enough to provide like a service that people truly deserve. I mean, like that's the one thing that's making contact with the animal. So, it should be more tthan just something you pull off the shelf, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Me and Dylan were actually just talking about that before you hopped in here. That's kind of been, I mean, I've been kind of an arrow out of the box guy for a long time. I mean, going into last year, I had some made up, but nothing like what I just had you, make this for me this past week. And like you said, it's not even necessarily like they did. Not that they didn't care, they just didn't really know how to do it. So there's just selling them out of the box, cutting them for you. They're not tuning your bow to the arrow or anything like that. I mean, that's an adventure, or not an adventure, but a drawn out process that you're getting pretty good at.
Yeah, for sure. And it does take time. Like, to be fair, it does. And this time of year, that's a very, short commodity. So it's definitely something, like I always preach, like, don't come now this time of year for that kind of stuff. Like, like it's always good to have, arrows built. Like turkey season's really good time. Like that's a great time because, man, people are starting to get out in the woods. There's a lot, preseason stuff starting then. But it seems like it's always like 4th of July, the 4th of July weekend. Everyone's with their family. They're talking about hunting. A lot of cameras are out, people are doing a lot. It's on everyone's mind. So that's typically the green light for arrow build, or anybody in the hunting industry. Typically it's like, that's when it all really starts. So
then you have guys like me that ordered them last week, and I'm gonna be hunting next week.
no, I'm excited for you to get them, man. Like it's cool because like now it's different. So like I've had to turn, like this is the first year I've ever had to turn away bow work. Just because like in good faith, I can't keep up on orders and then also wait on strings, then spend this amount of time outside putting them on, making sure it's perfect, making sure the bow's tuned to the person. And then, before I know it, it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and like I'm just coming inside for the first time. Like I just can't do that. I used to when I was younger, prior, 4 kids ago. I was no problem, but
right.
now it's just I can't.
So business is good. Like how many orders are you going through daily or weekly, or how's that all playing out?
Well, like right now, I'm probably sitting on what 20 or 30 designs like I got to get to, and that's just the designs. We're moving quite a bit of wraps each day. I mean, it's it's funny because I would never assume that people would be like buying arrow wraps in the middle of the day. Typically, it's like, people get off work, they get on social media, and they're like, "Oh, y'all go check them out." But like, we're getting orders at like 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, 11. It's like, and it just doesn't stop.
Right.
So it's definitely been an adventure. I couldn't imagine, because so we started the LLC in February, and then we were so busy come April, I was able to quit my full-time job.
Wow.
So it has moved so fast.
That's awesome, man. How did you come up with the name, the Bowtique? I mean, I love it, but how'd you come up with it?
Man, so a couple years ago, I did this like all red and black arrow build, and my wife was like, "It looks like a boutique of roses," and I was like, "The Bowtique." That makes
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that kind of stuck, and then and it's a nice little play off the tongue, because man, it's like, and this is clearly a joke, but like, the joke is, it's more important to look pretty than to shoot good. You know what I mean? So like,
Right.
a lot of people want their arrows to look absolutely beautiful. They want their bow to look beautiful. And that there's no shame in that. Of course, accuracy and confidence, all these other factors are way more important than that. But
Right.
it's just, it's all just a big play on words. So
Yeah, for sure. So what all do you offer at the Boutique?
So currently, right now, we're still running through arrow builds, because while this printer's running, I'm just like twiddling my thumb. So I'm busting out arrow builds all the time. In fact, I think today alone I did 10 dozen. So like I'm building arrows and printing off wraps, and and we have big name, like we're starting to get some really big name dealers, which is super exciting. But yeah, the printer. I'm surprised it hasn't caught on fire yet, to be honest.
You've done some really cool designs. I think that's what stood out to me the most. I see you a lot on social media and people getting their stuff done and all that. What's some of like the wildest requests that you've gotten on these wraps?
I don't know, man. It's just family friendly. It's a family friendly podcast. So
Yeah, no. You can say whatever you want, brother. This wide open.
man, I've gotten requests for like cock wraps. And of course, it wasn't for the gentleman. It was like the guy was building wraps for his buddy. It was kind of funny. He sent me pictures when they were all built. It was hilarious. But
That's awesome.
I get stuff like that like frequently, I would say. Clearly, I can't sell it online. That's weird. But like,
Right.
if someone messages me, I already have it ready to go. So
Yeah, if Spencer's ever start selling arrows, you'd be in there, huh?
yeah, dude, right in front of the store. But yeah, so I mean, that kind of stuff. I get I don't know. So like, it's always it's so different, because people are different, their tastes are different, and
Right.
the one thing that really derived from like how I design and stuff is, everything in this industry is, green and brown and dead deer skulls, and it's just very played out, bow and arrow, broadhead. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, people are very interested in other things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
We did, just doing like the very first wrap we did was a cigarette wrap. So like
I've seen those before.
so when you're at full draw and you hit your anchor, it looks like you have a cigarette in your mouth.
That's awesome.
It's so ridiculous. But those are hot. The glow in the darks are hot. Especially for states where they can't use lighted nocks. Like, we've been selling to a lot of those states. It's not better than, but it's definitely a good alternative.
I wasn't even aware that lighted nocks were illegal in some states.
Yeah, some states. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking wild.
Yeah, more so in Western states. I think there might be one up Northeast, like maybe New England area somewhere, New York, somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely still a couple.
That's awesome. The one that I liked that you did the other day was the zombie Spider-Man. That was pretty wild.
Oh, yeah, those are sweet. Yeah, those are sweet. Those were actually for a giveaway, which are my favorites, because with it being a giveaway and there's no profit tied to it, I can like literally do whatever I want. Like it doesn't matter if it's copyrighted, I could do anything just because there's no profit being made.
Right.
So those are always super fun. And too, it gets a lot of people involved. We do giveaways all the time, like our TikTok. We go live every night, or if not every other night, and like, you know, for people in the live or subscribers, stuff like that. I think we've given away probably $1,000 worth of stuff, like just from like, you know, just I'll print stuff off and I won't use it because like if it looks good on a flat image, does not always mean it's going to look good on an arrow. And
Right.
so, you know, in a lot of those situations where I'll test print stuff off, especially for the website, you know, I just have all these extra prints laying around. So, I mean, why not just give them back to people who, you know, want them? So.
The picture that you sent me was for the thumbnail of this episode was you at the ATA show. Was that for Bowtique, or were you just going as a consumer?
As a consumer, kind of. So I do a lot of networking there. Like, so I get asked probably daily about going to the ATA. It's definitely a cool idea, but it just doesn't, for me, it doesn't make sense. Just because I have my phone, you know what I mean? I can,
Right.
because man, like in Harrisburg, for instance, I went on and I looked at all the exhibitors that were going to be there. Prior to going, I mocked up a bunch of designs. I shook owners with, you know, hands with the owners, and I was like, hey, you know, my name's Mike. I'm with Bowtique. I do custom arrow wraps. I did a mock up for you. Let me know what you think. And there's a lot of no's, but there was also a lot of yeses. Like,
Right.
a lot of people don't quite realize that an arrow wrap it could very well replace the business card for the hunting industry. And like, it's really good for video, especially for bigger companies. So like I know one of my buddies, Kalen Pope over at Arrows Anonymous, he's really tight with Lone Wolf Custom Gear and Osseo and Joe Miles, all them. So like right now, I'm the only one printing that's legally allowed to print Osseo arrow wraps.
That's awesome.
But it's exclusively for, you know, those guys. So
that's a great group of guys too. They're always next to us at the indie show. Rendell Eric, I talked to him quite a bit. I think he does a lot of their shows now. We got the little van that he drives around, but super
all
good.
All over the place.
Super great group of guys. Even talked to Joe was there a couple of years ago. Got to talk to him, and great group of guys, man. I like the camo pattern for that. You know, it's not your typical, you know, Sitka or a mossy oak or real tree. You know, they did their own thing. I think it was supposed to imitate like an owl or something like that. I think it looks super good.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, like I don't know the whole history of it, but like I'm pretty sure it's supposed to simulate like a barred owl. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's super cool. And all the guys are like, it's crazy. They're all super nice. Like even the lone wolf guys, like they're super nice. You look at them and you would think like, this is not a nice person, but they're all the ones I've talked to are super nice. They're all killers too. Like they're all,
for sure.
Straight killers. It's wild. So
that's pretty cool. You know, that saying the wraps are going to be the new business card. I had business cards at the indie show just to try to get people to come over and check the YouTube out and that kind of thing. A lot of people turned me down when I went to hand out a business card. They're like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I'm like, okay. I've seen a lot of people, I think they're called dots, the dot cards, where you just kind of swipe it behind somebody's phone and everything pops up, your socials, your email, everything, which I think is a great idea because, you know, a lot of people are just so into the digital world that when they put that business card in the bag they're carrying around, they probably won't ever even look at it again.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, and you know, it's just another thing to carry around. Like, I can't tell you the last time, like, I pulled out my wallet and like pulled out a business card that someone handed me and called them up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's ever been a case. But yeah, the first time I experienced that was, I think it was last year at the Mobile Hunter Expo. Someone had one, and he was like, you know, you care to take my card? I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, pull out your phone, and just popped it on the back of my phone. I was like, what?
Right.
So yeah, that got me interested, and I definitely remembered it enough to tell the story. But
yeah, for sure,
you know, it's definitely ever changing world, and that's the thing. Going back to ATA was like, you know, it just doesn't make sense to me to have to like pack. Like, I'm not going to be printing on demand there. You can't really sell anything. So like, it's just, it'd be a booth of me, just me. So I can just do that freely and walk around the crowd. So it has its pros and cons for sure, but it's just financially it doesn't make sense because it's not cheap. It's not cheap
Right.
to throw up at ATA. So
Are you thinking about taking Bowtique to some of these trade shows over the winter and stuff?
and possibly. I know that it's weird, man. It's like, so there's a lot of people that do build arrows, but there's more people that don't
Yep,
than do.
absolutely.
So going to those kinds of things, typically you find that people are looking for something like, because I mean, it costs a lot of money and there's a lot of margin of error. You could mess everything up. And so it is, a lot of people have the assurance of knowing that, like, I'll just pay this guy and be, confident and for this season. It's not a no by any means. It's just, I got to pick and choose them well because demographically, Midwest, I'd say, like, there's a lot of arrow builders in the Midwest. Out west, out east, not so much. So it's definitely demographic for sure.
Well, let's start talking about some arrows. What all arrows, or what company of arrows, what brand of arrows are you carrying?
Currently, right now, I'm a dealer for Nimrod Archery. He's a good friend of mine. He makes a really good arrow. Small business. I'm a dealer, indirect dealer for Victory, Gold Tip. I do have, nothing's official, and I can't say what, but just pay attention to Havoc broadheads. There's going to be somebody very knowledgeable building their arrows. So I'm excited about that. I'll be dealing their arrows too.
That's awesome.
So
The Nimrod, I seen him on TikTok is kind of where I first seen him. And I felt like he came out of nowhere, unless it was just something I wasn't really paying attention to. And he seems to be live on there quite a bit and
yeah,
doing giveaways and stuff like that. Pretty good product.
really good product. Yeah, that's going to be my arrow for this year. Is going to be the Nimrod 4mm Duo Pro. I'm excited for it. It's cool because it's a 4mm arrow, and it's also lightweight. So here in Indiana, like, it's a lot, and I'm preaching to you guys, but like, it's a lot of cornfields and it's a lot of pastures and it's a lot of open. And it's not to say that we don't have big woods. We do down south, but like,
Right, not where we're at.
not where we're at. And so, and it's a trend, everyone went down this big, it takes 10,000 grains to kill a deer, and that's ridiculous. And people went down that road, and I think what you're seeing, especially me this year, I'm seeing a lot of people that are like not going crazy light, but they're definitely straying away from that over 500 marker.
Mm-hmm.
And again, demographic, I mean, it's not uncommon for us to take shots at 40, 50 yards. It's
Absolutely.
not. And I mean, when you got a heavy arrow and that deer takes one step, you got to completely rechange your scope. You're moving your sight like
Right.
on a heavy arrow setup. So if you can have flatter trajectory here where we're at, it's always better. So that's what I've been building a lot. That's why I'm building those for myself. So I'm excited.
Well, I know Dylan was talking a little bit about it earlier, but what brought on the very heavy arrow? Was it like a traditional thing that really brought that into play? It kind of came out of nowhere. I felt like it was kind of like a fad for a while.
Yeah, initially, I mean, if you were to rewind to the original man, they're building arrows on cedar wood with big chunks of rocks and feathers on the back. I mean, that is a heavyweight, high FOC arrow build. In the traditional world, like, I can't add twists to cables and I can't check timing, but I can tune my arrow to get perfect arrow flight. And that's what a lot of trad archers do.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to like a lot of, killers in the industry that strictly only hunt trad. I mean, yeah, that is that time and place. Mind you, they're also only shooting 15, 20 yards max. Like 20, 25 is a Hail Mary shot.
Right.
So there is a time and place. In those regards, you're going to take this arrow and I'm going to force it to go where I want it. So that makes sense. Compound world, it initially started with, I would say like big game animals, like the whole Ashby thing. Because man, momentum, it is true. I can't sit here and say it's not. But throws are so much more efficient now than they ever were. The fact that we're pushing 350 feet out of, IBO speeds out of bows now, there would be like someone's papaw literally turning in their grave knowing that we missed a deer with their brand new bow and a rangefinder and all of our heated hunting gear and our trees. So I think it's, situational, but a lot of it came from hogs. I think, especially here in America, a lot of it came from hog hunting under feeders at fixed locations. So like, yeah, I mean, if that's your hunting setup, yeah, run a 3,000 grain arrow, go for it. However, I know every deer I've ever shot, they're moving animals, like they're very finicky. And so, again, it's time and place. It's not that one is better than the other. I just know for here, where I'm at, where you're at, a flatter trajectory arrow is always going to outperform a heavy arrow.
Right.
Yeah. So I just, a little bit back, like we have a couple like chain stores around here that you can like have, their bow shops or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have like this one guy, I don't know, he's in his early 80s and he still owns his bow shop. It's like half his bow shop, half his wife's furniture store. And you go into like the chain stores and nobody's ever in the bow section. But recently I've been going to the bow shop a lot because I just bought a compound and I'm trying to get, it all figured out. And man, there has been so much conversation that I've overheard, just like from people going in there just to shoot the shit with him and hang out. And that was one of them, like the heavier arrows versus like, okay, well, I don't care if you're shooting at 70, I'm shooting at 50 and I'm shooting truer because I'm not having to struggle. And he's like, but I'm shooting a heavier arrow at a higher weight. So like, it was just the conversations of them going back and forth. And then that old guy, he's pretty biased to his Hoyt because that's who he shot for. So then he's an older guy, so he's stuck in his way. So it's just like three different angles for somebody who's new at it, and I don't know who to take, or the strategy that I should apply to my personal approach at it.
No, for sure. And it's always been interesting to me because like a lot of these older gentlemen, like especially these little corner shops that you find that just like they have archery equipment, but they're not really doing anything archery related. So like a lot of these guys come in from the era of like 2219 aluminum arrows with muzzy free, like that's 1,000 grain arrow like that. So, and a lot of times you hear these guys are like, well, speed kills too, but it's like they came from that background. Yeah. So in comparison between those two things, they have found, even without thinking about it, those aluminum arrows didn't do as good as these super fast ones did. So, I mean, again, I'm not going to say one's right, one's wrong. That's going to get me in a lot of trouble. But like, I do know it has its time and place. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about, if it requires 500-600 grains for you to have confidence in your ability to harvest an animal, that's all that matters. So like if you feel like that's what you need to successfully, and ethically kill your deer, your turkey, whatever the case may be, that's all that matters. So
yeah.
Are the days of a standard arrow gone?
Dude,
I know that's a loaded question, but
oh man, I don't know, because man, like there's a lot of times I get them, throughout the spring I get them. It's just these guys that come in, they got like 5 different arrows like in their quiver, and each one of them they know which one hits where and what, and it's just like, and they kill every year. It's like, I'm not going to tell you anything at this point, but like, it's not how I would do it. But yeah, it's to say that they're dead, no, but it's definitely, I think social media has spread light. And adversely, everyone's now an expert, which is the craziest part about it. And that's not just archery. That's hunting. Like everyone is now an expert because they talked to some guy or heard some video.
Right. Or they
asked AI.
Yes.
That too.
Because I've seen that on a thread. A dude pretty much like got his arrow, set his bow up all through AI. Like was asking him what should I set it for hunting this region? How fast is it shooting? And they pulled up like specs versus what AI told him, and it was, I mean, a little unnerving, I guess you could say, that he was so spot on by just being able to use, But I mean, then you get a kook out there who doesn't know what he's doing, and his bow blows up on him because it's not set up right. So I don't know. The bow, the whole archery thing, I love to shoot. I could shoot all day. I'm just now getting into it actually hunting.
Yeah.
I've always just been like, and I get it now that I've like got to compound him and shooting it, like the crossbow guys versus like that, and that's a whole nother story too, I'm sure, for you. But it's so crazy how like you would think that it's so simple, like you just get a bow, get some arrows, and you go shoot. But then you get into stabilizers, quivers. The sights out right now are absolutely insane. The last time I had a compound, it was a 3-pin. You had what you had, and now what came on mine is like you can change it for the yardage, and you're set. And then what is it? There's one out that automatically ranges for you and
There's a
adjusts the
few of
pin.
them.
It's like that's wild to me.
Yeah.
So like then you get into customizing arrows and getting crazy broadheads, and it's just unlimited expression even for something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you get some, I guess. Do people ask you for more advice too when like building, and they just kind of be like, "This is what I'm doing," and you build it for them?
Yeah. I mean, like, yes and no. So I mean, it's not uncommon for the guy to say that walks in and was like, "This is what I want. This is how I want it. This is what's worked for me." And again, comes back to confidence. I mean, the guy has had success with this setup before, and that's what he trusts. I'm not going to argue with that. But I do the favorite customer is the guy who's like, "Give me something that's good for what my setup is." And again, it gets asked like, where are you at geographically? Like, are you flat ag, or are you big, big woods? Are you hill country? Are you swamp? Like what is your, what are you trying to accomplish? And, are you shooting mechanicals? Are you shooting fixed? Or, what are you doing? And so like, there is more to the pieces, more than me just building this, like, really pretty arrow. Like it is way more than just that. So I think that, let me turn.
Oh, you're fine.
So I mean, the customer that gives me all this information, and then like, especially like when they're able to go out and harvest that year, like that's always super rewarding, especially for me. And like, even though like now with how busy everything is, there is this weird feeling that like, if I know my arrows are going to Africa with some other guy, and I see these harvests with my arrows that I built for this guy on camera, like a piece of me was there. It's weird, but like there is a level of satisfaction with that.
I would say even like when I got with you to build mine, I showed you what I'd had the year prior. I was shooting fixed. I was doing this. I was doing that. I was kind of I knew that the people that you've done stuff before, and they highly recommended you. And I said, kind of do your thing, and and give me something that you think that is going to work great for me. And I've never shot that small of an arrow before, the 4 millimeters, and I'm excited to get them and throw them down range, because I know that you're bringing out some good work, and I'm ready to see it for myself.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for you to get them. I'm excited for you to get them. They're pretty. I know that they're really pretty. They got a lot of attention.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to throw one for a big old velvet giant next week.
That'd be sick. That'd be sick.
Let's see. Let's talk about arrow builds for whitetails, and we'll keep it Midwest range. What exactly? Say they're just shooting a typical Matthews Phase 4 or VX3 or something like that. A typical newer compound bow. What's something? Where would they start at? This is kind of like arrow building for dummies if they don't know anything about it.
Yeah. So like, I mean, even still here, like I said, it's not uncommon to be shooting out to 40, 50 yards. It's not.
Right.
However, with that being said, most of your shots are going to be within that 20 to 30 yard marker. So like, for me, especially in the day and age where I wouldn't say everyone, most people are running single pin slider sights,
Mhm.
or like even like a 3-pin slider sight. So I always advocate like single pin. I want my arrow to be flying fast enough that I can set my pin at 25 yards and know that I'm an inch high at 20, an inch low at 30. So I can center mass in all those grounds and know that I don't have to worry about anything. I just know where my float is, how far this deer is.
Mhm.
So that's ultimately the goal. However, like arrow weights, fletchings, like configurations, like right helical, left helical, straight, yada yada. Like I think that's more for the people that are in the like they're going to be shooting a fixed, a big fixed broadhead. Like you have to steer that thing.
Right.
Um, especially too, because like if you're shooting a mechanical, especially like your typical whitetail build Midwest guy shooting like a mechanical broadhead, I'd say probably like a 420 to 450 grain arrow. So I mean that's gonna do the job, especially 28, 29-inch draw length, 70-pound bow. Like that's gonna do really well. I think a lot of people so get so infatuated with the little things, like is my are these arrows right or whatever, and they forget like I need to actually practice shooting my bow.
Right.
And because man, like it's wild because there's the guys like that'll pull out their bow September 15th and shoot a pie plate at 20 and be like, yep, I'm still in. You know what I mean? And
Right.
go,
I know some of those guys.
yeah, me too. And like it's insane. Like it's insane to me because man, like for me, like I strictly bow hunt. So for me, um, as a bow hunter, like it's your ethical obligation to make sure that you're providing this animal with the fastest kill possible. Like deer don't die of old age surrounded by their loved ones and family, like in the woods. Like
Right.
they're not like the hospice doesn't show up and like I mean, it's all brutal. Everything is brutal. They starve, they get infection, they get predators, minivans, whatever the case may be. It's always brutal. So the one thing as a hunter that as we can do, especially bow hunters, is provide this one animal with a fast death. And I think that a lot of that, yeah, your equipment needs to be in check. But, you also need to be in check too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people practice at like, 20, 30 yards, standing up, perfect, posture. But how much did you practice out of your tree stand? How much did you
Right.
practice like at an elevated or a squatting shot or things of
Or
that nature?
angled,
Yeah,
you
angled
know.
shots, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, that's we definitely harp on that here at my place. We'll get the saddles out, or even just put the sticks and a lock on, and get up there. And I've had a few people that I've had the privilege of teaching them a lot of stuff when it comes to bow hunting in the last few years. And one person in particular couldn't get that angle down of shooting from an elevation. They shot high every time. I'm like,
Mhm.
listen, you got to compensate for your angle where your arrow sits and where your sight's at. There's some space in there, so you're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
And I finally got him in a tree stand here in the backyard or in a saddle, that kind of thing, and it finally clicked with them. Like, holy shit, I gotta just aim just down a little bit, and I'm hitting where I want to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't really do that. Like you said, they're at a range or they got a target in the backyard or whatever, and it doesn't emulate what they're going to be doing when they're actually hunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Too. And here's the truth. Like everyone is a professional archer in their backyard. And like, um, the simple fact is like, whether it's a doe or a buck of a lifetime, like you're going to be feeling something like,
Mhm.
and like in those pressure, like that's why I always advocate, like, don't just practice by yourself. If you have a group of buddies that shoot, it's like the best practice under pressure is go shoot with a bunch of your friends because they're going to tear you apart on bad shots.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and it's all in good fun, but like it is like you're practicing while people are watching. So that's going to simulate an elevated heart rate. That's going to simulate like, you're going to really, you're focusing on other things other than the shot. So in those regards, like there's sometimes where like even still, like if there's a big deer in front of me, I don't even know if I look through the peak. You know what I mean? So like,
Right. Goes
it
back
is
to muscle memory.
Hmm.
exactly. So there is a matter of, there is pressure to it, and some stuff you can practice for, some stuff you can't. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. For
Yeah,
sure.
I'm a little nervous because we do a ton of bow fishing,
Yeah.
and obviously bow fishing, it's all there's no sights whatsoever, and you're shooting low and a
Mhm.
lot low. So I've had to like target practice. I've caught myself just kind of like, all right, well, nope, you got to look through it. But for me, on my farm, I have a lot of stands hung. So what we do is I know pretty much where my deer cross, how they're going to come through. We took the target up and we put the target in those trails where they come through, and we just shot while we were working on the food plots. And we'd work, be tired, shoot a couple, and then that way, for myself, I don't need the range finder right then because I know exactly, hey, it's this pin right there, and yeah, that's definitely one thing I know what it's like to miss, and it's not near as bad as when you hit one and you can't find it. And
Yeah.
I absolutely do not want that. And so I would rather practice and sweat my ass off all summer long, to not mess up that one shot just because I don't want that feeling because it's
Yeah.
terrible.
And the crazy thing is even all that practice still doesn't solidify the
Mhm.
fact that that's not going to happen. And like
Right.
Yeah.
it, it's still very much so a thing you should do, but like you can't, like I said, you can't practice some things. And
Yeah.
like, especially when like come rut, I mean, it's the Wild West. Like, there's not going to be a shot where you're able to just slowly and perfectly execute your shot with perfect form. Like, dude, like most of the deer that were shot in the rut are like they were steamrolling through, and like you were
Right.
just by the grace of God they stopped. And
Yeah.
like those shots, yeah, you're going to punch the trigger. Like you're going to have to. Like it's so. I mean, I think there's multiple ways. A lot of people don't think that like should I be practicing with like if you hunt with your hood up, should you be practicing with a hoodie with
Yeah.
your hood up? Or do you hunt with gloves on? You should be practicing with your gloves on. Things of that nature. A lot of people don't quite realize. But like ultimately, everybody should be getting their bow tuned. Everyone should be verifying broadhead flight. Just because it says it's field point accurate doesn't mean that it's field point accurate. It's field point accurate out of a tuned bow. Um, that's the very small print that a lot of people don't quite see. And it's, again, it's a matter of confidence. I know I'm confident when my arrow is leaving my bow perfectly level. There's no weird fishtail. There's no kick. There's no nothing. I want to verify that, you know, I can hit a deer and that arrow hit it sideways. I still hit the deer, but it's not going to do anything to him. So like a truly tuned bow is going to penetrate better. It's going to be more lethal. It's going to, ultimately result in a higher percentage of harvest. So it's more that, and then there's a caveat. A lot of people spend time scouting for deer. I respect that. A lot of those people also forget that I need to shoot my bow too. And adversely, there's the guys that shoot their bow all year and then don't put any effort into, looking for deer. So I think that you got to be able to find that happy medium because some people see it as a tool. Like for me, like it's my therapy. Like whenever things get heavy, I go out and I shoot my bow. And it's also very stressful sometimes, but ultimately it's something I enjoy, and a lot of people lose enjoyment when, especially in the situations where I've been practicing, but I'm not practicing right, which is irrelevant at that point.
Mm-hmm. What talk about the whole tuning process as far as tuning your bow with your arrow? Exactly what is it that you're doing when you're doing that?
Yeah, so ultimately, like if it's a full build and I'm starting with the arrows, like, if someone comes in as like, I need, say someone lays down a wad of money and was like, I need a bow, I need arrows, I need to be good. So I verify, their draw length, what their poundage is. And then from that point, I have a rough idea on what spine arrows they need. And as long as the spine's correct, you want to make sure your cams are in time. You want to make sure your arrow rest is center shot. You want to make sure, and again, like the bow's a machine. Like when it's being shot by a machine, it will produce the same result every time. We're the variable as people. So just because I can tune it to me does not mean that like you guys could pick it up and shoot it and get a bullet hole.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's the matter. So like I make sure everything's within manufacturer's spec. Poundage is perfect, the brace height, the axle, everything's perfect. Arrow rest is dead center. Everything's right. I'll shoot it, and then 9 times out of 10, it's a perfect bullet hole. If not, you add a twist here or there. And then I have the customer shoot through paper just to verify. So a lot of the times that results in this tuning session has just now became a coaching session. So, and two, that's stuff that they can take home and practice, of course, but it's, it's good to know, like, there's some people that want it tuned to them. And if it's a crazy paper tear, I will tune it to them if that's what gives them confidence.
Mm-hmm.
However, a lot of people will say, okay, well, like, I trust you. I trust that it's perfect. And, as long as you're doing the wrong thing over and over, um, it's still perfect. Like, that's a beautiful
Right.
thing about archery. You could do everything completely wrong, but if you're doing it wrong the same every time, it's fine.
Right. Do you think people get hung up on both speeds, feet per second? You think people get hung up on those numbers too much?
Yeah, ironically, because people get so hung up on how fast a bow shoots, and then they go build a 800 grain arrow. So it's weird. There is a common ground. Like, it needs to be fast, but it also needs to be heavy. So, like, there is a point where you see diminished value on both ends. Like, ideally, and it's bow to bow, draw length to draw length, person to person. But, like, there is an ultimate weight that you can achieve to get the max amount of penetration with the max amount of speed without seeing diminished values on either side. And again, that's purely based off the bow. That's purely based on the draw length of the archer and multiple different factors. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a wormhole for sure. But a lot of times, like I said, most people in today's society are shooting. I'd say, like, in our area, probably like 425, 450, high end 475. Typically shooting mechanical broadheads, which are more forgiving in flight than a fixed broadhead. But some people don't want the idea of failure of, if mechanical fails, I don't want to worry about that. I want to know that this broadhead is cutting the second it makes contact until the second it hits the ground.
That would be me. I've had a couple bad luck with the few times that I had shot mechanical broadheads,
Mhm.
and I kind of went. I shot Muzzy 3-blade for 20 years.
Good head.
So I just went back to what I knew and what worked for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I shot a 4-blade the last 2 years, and this year I'm shooting a 3-blade. So it may be a little bit different, and I have some spare ones, and I'm going to run through a few uh, targets just to make sure there's nothing crazy happening out of the.
Yeah. See, like, for fixed blade shooters. And again, like, I'm not saying that one will kill or one won't kill. I
Right,
mean,
right.
people killed mammoths with rocks. You know what I mean? So, um, I advocate, if you're going to shoot a fixed blade broadhead, like, I'm a big fan of 4 blades, just because a 4 blade wound channel can't heal. It can't clot. It's a hole.
Hmm.
There's 3. I mean, like, there is that central point where all, that tissue meets, so it can close. With
Hmm.
4, it can't. I mean, I'm not a big knife nerd, but there was a knife that was designed, I think, in World War II, where it was like a triangular point. So they had to ban it from war, because if you got medics they couldn't heal they couldn't suture those up, and they couldn't fix these people that were stabbed by them, and it was deemed unethical by war because of these knives. And it's the same idea with broadheads. So you shoot that in an animal, it can't stop bleeding.
Hmm. Dylan, what exactly? I know you were kind of gonna have some broadheads made. What exactly? You have any questions on something that you're gonna put together?
No, I think that I'm new enough in it to be taking my time and do it the right way and get everything set up right instead of just going to Walmart and buying, you know, 5 or 6 arrows at different weights and different lengths. So I think, especially once you come down next weekend and you check my bow out and you look, I'm definitely going to get with you and have you wrap me some up and you know, support the cause, because I was telling him I kind of had an ideal about a cool design that I think would be pretty sweet. So I'm just dipping my toes in it now, but I will say, on the fixed versus expandable, you hear more stories about them not opening up.
Hmm. Yeah.
I've experienced it last year on the big velvet buck. The rage didn't open up at all. It's just, thank God for a good shot. But the guy at the bow shop told me that a lot of times if they get wet or they get rained on or you keep them in a cool, damp spot, and you don't open them before you go, they will rust, and it does not take much rust at all to hold those things together. And so I'm going straight fixed. I'm taking that element out of there. But yeah, I'm shooting 70 pounds on a Hoyt. So I think I'm just gonna, whoever had this bow, I bought it used. So they had top of the line everything
Mhm.
on it. So they're shooting like some crazy light arrows, I think.
Mhm.
I sent their Eastman, I sent you a picture of them. I think they're like tiny little.
I think they were Easton Full Metal Jackets, I think is what they
Yeah,
were.
that's what I mean. And they're shooting really consistent. For
Mhm.
me to have never shot this bow and then just start shooting, grouping where you can grab it like this and pull all of them out. So
Yeah.
I've just been at 20 yards and I'll shoot six, get them in the kill zone, and then I'll step back and I've just been playing with distance and seeing how the bow shoots and I just really it if you know what you're doing, you can coach me through it because I have no clue and I'd rather learn the right way than get on here and because I have noticed on some of the YouTube or whatever, they won't really believe in their product. They're just sponsored though, so they're pushing it. You
Oh, for
know,
Yeah.
sure. That happens a lot.
yeah. And then you get some guys who actually believe in it and they,
You know,
live their product or whatever. And that's where I'm trying to go the people I know and I trust, get advice from them, and then and dabble around because I'm not just going to go straight to like a dude's and deck out the exact same thing that he's shooting or the way he's doing it, and then it just totally flop. And then I think that's kind of what turns people off from archery sometimes. It's like because I didn't realize how expensive it has gotten. So if you're going by just what you're seeing on TV and you go and buy a brand new Hoyt and you hate it because it just don't. It's amazing how different brand bows shoot so different.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things I really think that you do need to go to a bow shop and shoot a few, get it kind of tuned to you because it's not a one size fits all.
No, definitely
not
not.
even not even close. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to go back on what you said about the mechanicals, I can't remember what I was listening to. It was a podcast I was listening to, but it was all about dog trackers, and they were comparing people that had called them to come track deer. And believe it or not, they had more people that shot fixed blade that couldn't find their deer than the mechanicals, which is crazy because I'm a fixed blade guy.
Yeah.
But that statistic kind of blew my mind. Maybe it's because I am a fixed blade guy, and I was thinking, man, I wonder why that is. I want to know exactly why that is the way it is. Is it just like you said that fixed blades can be harder to come out of a compound sometimes?
Yeah, possibly. I think that there's a lot to it. I mean, like, because and I could be completely wrong, but from what I understand, like tracking dogs don't smell blood. They smell the pheromones released from the deer as they're in panic. So,
Absolutely.
um, adversely, so like, and this is always going to be the double-edged side of like mechanical versus fixed. So, mechanicals are always going to produce more blood loss and hemorrhaging than fixed blades do. However, in a lot of fixed head harvests, you can visually see your deer drop. Um, whereas mechanicals, I mean, and it's too like if I were to get a paper cut, it's so sharp and so fast, I don't even know what's happening until I look down at my hand and it's covered in blood.
Mm-hmm.
But if I hit my thumb with a hammer, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to bleed. So I think that there is the two sides to it. Like, I think that when a deer is bleeding more, they know that they're dying. So they're going to produce more of that pheromone. Whereas with a lot of fixed heads, they get hit by something hard and they know they're hurting, but not like how like blood is just spewing out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is that variable to it. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. I do know that I've heard the same thing. I've heard that there's more recoveries from mechanical heads. In specific, oddly enough, Schwackers was the number one most recovered animal, a two-blade Schwacker.
Nice.
So, but again, you better get two holes with those heads, because if you don't, you got one-inch hole and an arrow is still inside of it. So it's not saying that one's good or one's bad. I've personally had good luck with schwackers. I know people that have really good luck with schwackers. And same thing with rages. Like I never had luck with rage. I know a lot of people that have. So it's, I think it's circumstantial. It's situational. There's so many different factors. I don't carry just one type of broadhead in my quiver when I go in the woods. I have like a potpourri of just different ones based off where I'm setting up. Like if I'm hunting public, or if I'm hunting like woods, or if I'm hunting edge, like I have a setup for each thing. The arrow's the same and they're all weighed the same, but like what I'm trying to accomplish is what's determining what broadhead I pull out.
Have you ever shot like a hybrid mechanical or a hybrid broadhead?
Yeah. I mean, I have. I think it's been a few years. It's been a few years. It was and I wouldn't even say it was a full mechanical. It was a fixed head with deployable bleeders. So like, I don't know if that's like a true, like quote unquote mechanical. I know Sever just came out with one. It's super interesting. I know they make really good products. I think if your mechanical side of it does fail, you can rely on the fixed blades that are still in action. Ultimately, it's about shot placement. I mean, that's
For sure.
at this point, but I think me personally, I'd rather go with one side or the other. Like it's either I'm going to go full fixed or I'm going to go full mechanical.
I shot, I believe they were by Bloodsport. It was Bloodsport Nightfalls. I shot a couple years ago, and believe it or not, I had amazing blood trail with it. Actually, two of the deer that I shot with it, I didn't even have to track. I visually watched them go down, and the deer I shot in Wisconsin with that. When I opened it up, the insides, I mean, it looked like a grenade went off in his chest. I was like, wow, I hadn't really seen that before because I shot the Muzzy 3 blades for so long that it was a lot different when I went to clean the deer compared to having that just regular 3 blade in there.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because like in a different world, if you shot that deer with the same head, it would have produced a different result. So like just because you have like good success with this broadhead doesn't mean the next deer you shoot you're going to have good success with, which is the wildest part because every deer reacts, every deer changes. I mean, like deer, a lot of people underestimate how resilient these animals are. I helped one of my buddies a couple of years ago. He tracked a single lung, piece of his heart was missing for up to, I think it was like 350 yards before we found a massive pile of blood. And mind you, the whole way it was pink, bubbly, like good blood for 350 yards.
That's
so like
crazy.
Insane. And like halfway through, I was just like, man, like this thing should have died just from pure blood loss. Like you would have thought that they would have went into cardiac arrest and just died, but they never did, which was wild. But
that's wild. I know you didn't want to touch on it too much, but I want to ask you a couple of things hunting. You got any trips planned this year or anything like that, or are you just strictly hunting Indiana?
Dude, so at this moment in time, we're so busy. Like I might be able to make it to my backyard.
Right.
I'm thinking about just getting like a full, like just a suit that looks like brick, and I'm just gonna hide next to my house. But probably not. Normally I go to Ohio. I go to Southern Ohio quite a bit. So literally the land of giants. There's a lot of competition, especially now. Like public hunting has become such a such a big fad. It's probably gonna get me killed now that I said that. But
no, I have the same mindset on it. So if they want to tear you down, they can tear me down too.
Yeah, it's public lands became a very big fad. It's not a bad thing. Like I'm supportive of it. I just think that demographically in some areas, especially state to state, there's so little. Like by us, I mean the only good one is just down south of me. And it gets destroyed. It gets destroyed by so many people. You either going to have to drive to the southern point of the state or up north, and I mean that's two completely different areas. So you're going from mouth of the Appalachia to straight swamps. So it's I think that I would like it more now if there was more places to hunt. Ohio is really good. I mean, you can take a rock and throw it to the next WMA.
Yeah.
So you're going to bump into people, but Ohio is a very highly sought after whitetail state. There's no denying that. However, in Indiana, I mean, Indiana is growing in popularity. I would say Indiana is probably one of the biggest sleeper states in the nation. I mean, like we've been dropping some monster deer the last few years, like Huff Buck. I mean, it gets brought up a lot, but that deer was, I mean, that was a national deer. So,
Yeah.
um, and that's just, I mean, that was an hour or so away from us. So, like,
I know
uh,
exactly where it was killed, actually.
yeah, man. So, like, it's, there's big deer here. It's just there's not many places to hunt. And, like,
Yeah.
especially as a bow hunter, I mean, like, it's fence rows. It's fence rows, small wood lots, and just corn. And that's it.
Yeah, actually, on episode 88, our last episode, I actually admitted to that. We go to Missouri and a couple other different states throughout the year. When I first started doing that, I struggled a lot hunting big hardwoods because I was so used to hunting fence rows and being out in the middle of nowhere and pinch points on patch woods, on stuff like
Drainage.
that.
Yeah,
Drainage
drainage.
ditches, yeah, alfalfa fields and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like it was a huge transition for me to try to figure out that. And I wouldn't even say that I even have it figured out quite
Mhm.
yet. I'm still working on it. I try to listen to a lot of people that are highly knowledgeable in that, and read topo before I go over there, and go based off past experiences because I'm hunting some of the same places year after year on public land in other states, and I've struggled with it quite a bit, and that kind of hard to admit sometimes especially when I run a bow hunting podcast. But
Mhm.
my bread and butter has been Indiana fence rows since I was 14 years old.
Yeah, man, and it's hard. I mean, like, because I mean, the wood lots that we have here, I mean, that's sanctuary. Like, you shouldn't be busting through those. So a lot of the time you're hugging, like you're hugging the tops or bottoms of drainages, and like, or you're pretty much just hoping that something messes up end of October. Like it's like that,
Right.
because man, and you can attest, come November 14th, man, it sounds like Normandy outside. Like it's just like gunfire and cannons blasting, and it starts at like 3:30 in the morning. It's still like dark outside, and it's just like I'm just sitting there in my with my bow, freezing to death. So
Right.
it's hard. It's like it's hard where we're at. Like I said, I'm straight bow hunter, so it's really hard for me.
Mhm.
After November 14th or whenever gun season starts. I know our area got plowed by um,
EHD.
last year, yeah. So
Yeah.
or the 2 years ago, and like we're starting to see like recovery on that. Even on the cameras I have out, like I'm starting to see like pretty nice deer starting to come out. Because man, like depending on who you talk to, especially older guys, like they'd be like, every deer has died. You know what I mean? Just like, no.
Yeah.
And then I think the ones that survived, man, they didn't have to compete because like I could walk a river system by my house and I could go pick up, like 2 years ago I could have found 20 to 30 just nice deer dead in the river, like they're just laying there,
Yep.
and it was sad. Like the
For
bat, like
sure.
behind my house, it smelled like a waste, like a recycling center. It was terrible. So there was definitely a lot of deer that died, but man, like the ones that lived, they had not no real competition over food sources or anything for the last few years.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see what are these deer going to look like this year, next year, that are like really coming out. So
Yeah. I'm excited for it, man. Finally, I mean, we got to wait till October 1st around here, and I don't really try to put too much pressure on my places here come October 1st because it's
yeah,
pretty tough hunting then. But getting to go down with Dylan next weekend in the Velvet, and then going to Missouri before Indiana opens, and hunting those different states, man, it put you in a different perspective when it comes to where you're from and where you're hunting at where you're from, and it
yeah,
can definitely change your mindset. And it's even made me change kind of the way I hunt at home a little bit. I mean, as far
yeah,
as setups go.
for sure. I know Kentucky. I used to hunt there before we had our twins. Like I would go down there every year, and there's a lot of deer down there. Like there's a lot and there's even more turkey, and
Absolutely.
it's it's a really good state. I think too, like especially people that have private land. I mean, that's so far and few between anymore, with leases and things of that nature. And plus, like, I mean, I'm not happy when some random stranger knocks on my door. To be fair, like,
Right.
um, I can get it in that regard. But the knocking on doors and asking if you can go on their property, you know what I mean, with a weapon at nighttime before they wake up, it's not really a good look in today's world. So I do advocate. I think that people that hunt, like, especially if you have that itch, man, like go to public, like go hunt public. Because like it's it's there. I'm not saying bust out everyone's hunt by any means. I'm just saying that if you have a hunting hole, don't ruin it before it gets good.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Man, I appreciate you coming on here with us tonight. It's been a blast to talk some arrows, especially wasn't really. I'm not huge into arrow buildings, and I think I learned quite a bit on tonight's episode. I don't know about you, Dylan. I know I've learned quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, I come in knowing nothing, so I'm leaving knowing quite a bit more.
but
there's a well of information. There's a well of information for people to find. I mean, just be selective. If I had any piece of advice, everyone has their 2 cents. Just do what works for you. Just make sure your equipment is correct. Make sure your arrows are good. Make sure you're, whatever you're trying to accomplish, where you're at, what you're capable of. Those factors need to be thought about prior to like diving in or trying to harvest. So.
Oh, absolutely. Tell everybody where they can find the Bowtique and how they can go about getting a hold of you to make some orders.
Yeah, so our website's theboutique.llc.com. We, like I said, if people want custom work, just email. It's found on the website. We have, pages of arrow wraps. We do custom work. Like I said, we provide a lot of stuff. A lot of people don't. We have the lightest, to the best of my knowledge, we have the lightest laminated arrow wraps on the market out of anybody. And not just that, like, in good faith, I can confidently say there's not another arrow wrap company that is founded and started by an arrow builder. I know what I want, and I took all that information over all these years of building arrows, all the thousands and thousands of arrows I built, and I put it in this package. I want it to be user friendly. I want it to look good. It's got to have your stamp on it. It's more than just like I said, the green and brown and deer head. Like there's people out there with different tastes, and I think we provide something for everybody. So
that's awesome. And for listeners, we're gonna have we partnered with Michael, and we're gonna have a promo code. Was a free BRB? I keep forgetting it, but free shipping for anybody that orders some stuff through him. So we're gonna have an ad read on the podcast, starting with this episode actually. So you'll get to hear me talk before the episode actually starts on the audio version. But appreciate you coming on, man, and looking forward to shooting your arrows, bud.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.